Hi guys! Today I'm going to show you how to paint a winter wonderland scene. There's a few things that you'll need before we get started. Today I'm going to be painting on a piece of paper for demonstration purposes, but you can be painting on your window, paper at home, or whatever you want to make a little more festive. To start, I put a few paint colors on just an old yogurt lid. You can use a palette or a plate or whatever you have accessible. I've got my three primary colors, blue, red, and yellow, a little bit of white, and a little bit of black. You're also going to need a big brush. I call this the Papa Bear brush. Some medium brushes, or Mama Bear brushes, and a baby brush. Once you're ready, we'll get started. So to begin, I'm going to set the scene. I'm going to take my Papa Bear brush and dip it just a little bit in the blue. Dab it off so you don't get too much. You can always add more. And we're going to start about halfway up our scene on the right side. I'm going to paint a very messy line, slowly slanting down and fading off. These lines really don't need to be perfect. In fact, it looks better and more natural if they're not. Do you see how my line starts thick on the right side and gets thinner the more it goes left? That's what you're trying to achieve. Okay, take that same Papa Bear brush and dip it in the blue again. Now you're going to do the same thing starting at the left and pulling your brush down into the center. Again, don't worry if the line's perfect. It's better if it's not. Now, without cleaning your brush, you're going to dip into a little bit of the white. Right underneath that blue line, start to paint a white line. This is just going to help you blend in your blue so that it becomes part of the snow. Do the same thing on the other side. Now, you can either clean off your first big brush, or you can take your clean Mama Bear brush and don't put any paint on it. Using swirly motions, you can blend those colors together. The more paint you have, the better it tends to work. Again, does not need to be perfect. Just go back and forth until you're happy with the way it looks. Once you're done that, take your Papa brush and add more white underneath that. Go back with your Mama Bear and blendy, blendy, blend. The messier, the better. Keep a little bit of that dark blue up at the top and then blend the rest of it out. Okay, next you're going to grab your Baby Bear brush. Now, dip first in the black and then in the blue. Make a dark blue color. If you don't have black, you can also just use the pure blue. That's okay. So now we're going to start the base for our trees. I think that I'm going to do 3 trees here and 2 over there. So wherever you want your trunk to start, that's where you're going to press the hardest. As you go up, you're going to start to release the pressure to make a thin tree trunk. I'm going to go over that line again. Ta-da! So do you see how it starts thick at the bottom and then gets a little thinner as it goes up to the top? I'm going to try another one a little further back, but the same technique. I'm going to press really hard at the bottom, and as I go up, start to release so it's a little bit lighter. We'll go over that line once more. Now, these lines do not need to be perfectly straight. In fact, it's better if they aren't. And I'll do one more on this side. So there's our tree trunks. Now we're gonna take our mama bear brush. Mine's still a little dirty, that's okay. We're gonna be using the same colors. Now, we're gonna start with our blue. Dab, dab, dab. Dab, dab, dab. You don't want too much paint on your brush. You can always go back. And we're gonna start at the very base of our tree. We're just gonna go back and forth, dabbing messy lines like this. Make sure there's some spaces between your lines. And as you go up, kind of taper your lines so they're a little bit closer together. So they're kind of angled like this. You can even start to turn your brush vertically. I'll show you another example with the dark blue again. So see, I got a little too much paint on my brush that time, but that's okay. Like I said, it's better when they're messy. Everything in nature is kind of messy. Okay, and I'm just tapping lightly, going back and forth, back and forth. I'm holding my brush horizontally like this. Sometimes I tilt it a little bit just to give the branches an upwards kind of tilt. And then I just go back and forth. Now this is the first coat of your trees. If you're happy with the way they look, you can stop there. But I'm going to show you a trick to make them look a little bit more three-dimensional. I'm going to do these ones really quick. There, so I finished these trees really quickly. As you can see, they're not perfect, and you can still see quite a bit of the trunk through the leaves. Now, what we're going to do is take a little bit of our blue and just mix that with a little bit of our white. A very, very famous painter once said, and I'll always remember, that you need to have darkness to show light. So that's why we do the dark blue first, and we add our highlights after to give that kind of three-dimensional effect. So now with my light blue paint, I'm gonna do the exact same thing, just very lightly, holding my brush and going back and forth over those branches. So this makes those trees look a bit more three-dimensional, but it also kind of gives the look of snow on the branches, which adds to our wintry wonderland kind of vibe. Okay. places where the trunk is poking through too much, you can go over a few more times. But I kind of like it when the trunk pokes through. I think it makes the tree look a little bit more bare, like it would be in the winter. Okay, and one last step, totally not necessary, but if you want to take it a little further, you can either wipe off or brush off your brush and just take some pure white. Now, I only do this on the trees that I want to come forward. So for example, maybe this tree is in front of this tree. So I'll add some pure white. Oh, my brush is kind of messy. You might have to clean off your brush before this step. But just to make that tree come forward a little, you can add a little bit of pure white. There. So there's my very messy, not at all perfect little spruce trees. I'm gonna take my mama brush again and a little bit of blue paint just to kind of blend in the bottom with some messy lines, just to add some shadow. And if you ever don't like your line, don't worry, just take some white paint and a clean brush and blend that in. The messier, the better. Okay, so there's our landscape. I am going to, with my mama brush, it's very messy by now, and some pure white paint, in the very center here, I'm gonna do a long white oval shape. Now, because I'm painting on white paper, it's kind of hard to see, but if you're painting on your window, this will pop really nicely. And if you want to make it pop even more, you can take some of that blue and maybe do some squiggles around the edge to blend it, make it pop. And if you've guessed already, this is going to be our skating rink. Okay, you can take a very thin, once your mama brush is nice and thin, you could add a nice line like that to make it look sort of shiny. And then we're gonna paint some characters skating on our rink. So I'm gonna use a clean Mama Bear brush, kind of a medium size, and I'm going to dip in the black paint. Now I'm going to paint two sort of egg shapes. One here on this side of the rink. And one over here on this side. And then I'll fill those in. And like I said, they don't need to be perfect, even these little guys. So two little egg shapes. And then you're gonna take your baby bear brush, dip that in the black, and we're gonna add 1, 2 little wings. We'll see if you can guess what we're painting. This guy's having fun. Okay, now if you need to, you can dip in the black again. 1, 2 little feet, 3, 4. And now I'm gonna clean off my baby bear brush as best as I can. And I'm gonna give my little characters some red skates while that black paint dries. So I just do with my baby brush kind of an L shape, or I guess a backwards L. So little booties like this. I've got some flashy red skates. This guy's got forward L feet. And then with your babiest of baby brushes, in that blue paint, we're gonna do 2 little vertical lines and 1 horizontal line, kind of like a really close together smiley face. And those are gonna be their skate blades so they can skate around. So 2 eyes and then a smile real close underneath. Okay, it looks like my black is starting to dry. So I'm gonna add some little toques to keep our guys warm. You can use whatever color. There's a lot of blue, so I'm gonna use some red again, maybe to match their skates. And I'm gonna start with 1 line. I'm using my baby brush, by the way. 1 line across. And I'd recommend letting your black dry longer than I did, because then your red will show up a lot nicer. I'll have to do a few coats, I bet. So you do 1 line across with your baby brush, and then a little triangle. My red isn't too bright. I might have to do a second coat. Once you're done that, you can do a little messy pom-pom. Just like that. Okay. While those dry for their second coat, take your baby brush and dip that in the white. We're going to do a little egg inside of the big egg. This is going to be their tummies. Again, let your paint dry longer than I let mine. I'm just impatient. And patience is a virtue, I've heard. Ta-da! Can anyone guess yet what we're painting? Now, with your tiniest baby brush again, you're gonna dip into the yellow for the first time this whole painting, and we're gonna do a little beak. Just like that. And to finish off these guys, I'm gonna use the white again to do 2 little eyes. Oops. Oh, I added too much paint to my brush. I'm gonna have to come fix these up later. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna let these penguins dry. They're penguins, by the way, before I come back with the second coat. In the meantime, we're gonna go to the sky to do a few quick snowflakes. So just like the trees, we're gonna start with dark to show light, and I'm gonna start with my blue paint and just do a T shape like this. When I've done my T shape, I'm gonna do a little crisscross, and I'm gonna leave that to dry. Okay, let's do another one over here. And one more up here. And while those dry, I like to do a few little snowflakes too. Just some dots in groups of 2 or 3. Now, I would recommend letting these snowflakes dry and then go in with a little bit of white and your baby brush and just kind of off center, go over those same lines with your white paint, just to make them pop and add some shine and dimension. All right, so I'm gonna let these dry so I can do another coat, and then I'll show you the final result. Be right back.